you're waiting to see my new co-host, that might be next week. I have to make some modifications to my co-host. He's a little tall. Yeah, takes up quite a bit of room. But thank you for the likes. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes. If you do have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, I have both my mods in here now. So you can leave a comment or request to join the live as a guest. I want to hear your paranormal stories. I want to hear ghosts. I want to hear Bigfoot, Dogman, UFOs. We haven't had a UFO encounter on here, have we? Welcome in, Laura. My mods are ready to go. My number one mod is over here with her notepad. I've got Laura in here with her taser in case anybody gets out of line. I know I have a couple people that wanted to come in and talk today. Alan, I see you're in here already. If you'd like to come in, I know you have some stories to tell. Oh, Chris is here too. Chris, wait a minute. Chris or Alan? Which one of you guys want to come in and tell your stories? I haven't had Chris in yet. Chris, what do you think, buddy? Would you like to? I heard on Nevermore Hollows your paranormal stories at the jail. I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more about that. Copenhagen in the house. He's like one of my number one fans. He comments on just about everything that I do. I appreciate it. What do you think, Chris? Let me see if I can invite him and see what he says. Madman. See what he says here. Welcome in, everybody. AK-47 in the house. She's trying to become Coot of the Month, I think, as much as she's in my videos. Chris is connecting here. Chris, brother, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am peachy. So I was listening to Nevermore, and I heard you telling you some paranormal encounters. Wondered if you'd be willing to enlighten us a little bit. If you want to, before you do that though, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are and hype yourself up a little bit, because I really enjoy your art.
Well, thank you. I'm Chris Madman Goins. I am partnered with Alan Wattenbogger in Nevermore Hollows, and I'm a freelance cartoonist. And you can find me at Black Sheep Studios TN on online.
I think hang on just a second, Chris. Does that sound better? Somebody commented we were having some audio problems. Does that sound better?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I was trying a new lapel mic, and that might have been the issue.
Okay.
But I went ahead and unhooked that.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo anymore.
Yeah, it does sound better.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry about that, Chris.
Oh, no worries, dude. No worries. So, yeah, I used to be a deputy sheriff, and I worked corrections. So our facility held state, local, and federal inmates. So I dealt with a little bit of everybody. And when I worked a mid shift, so most shifts were 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and then 6 at night till 6 in the morning, and I worked 9 till 9. So I worked a mid shift there, and I was leaving one night. Locked down my pod, went by the lieutenant's office to tell him I was out, and the entire jail was locking down for the night. And he said, "Who's that?" And he looked on the monitor, and in one of the pods, not mine, but one of the pods, there was an inmate watching TV. You could see him by the light of the television. All the other lights were out. And you could see a guy sitting at a table watching TV. And I said, "Well, I'll go take care of it." And he goes, "No, you're leaving. I'll get somebody else." But I hung around and watched. 2 officers went in there to get that inmate, and they walked right past him, and they didn't see anybody. We could see him on the monitor, but they did not see anybody sitting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could still see this person or entity on the cameras.
I could see this guy
walking through.
Right. He was sitting at a table. He had his legs kicked out, had his arms folded, and he was watching television.
So is this jail like an old jail or?
No, sir. It's actually fairly new. I worked there until 2013, and it was only maybe 6 years old when I started working there. So I worked there for 5 years. So, but you know, when a building houses, and most of these guys, I never had an issue with these guys. I talked to everybody. Most of them were just guys that made mistakes, were in the wrong place, the wrong time, or just couldn't figure out life. But every once in a while, you got some real different type people. I dealt with 2 individuals I know personally. I felt that they were possessed. I was locking down a pod. It was my record. It's our facility at that time, and still is called a direct supervision facility, which means that I was an officer in the pod with, man, my record is 56 inmates out. So nobody, everybody was out rummaging, doing what they got to do, doing laundry, doing whatever out in the rec area. And I would go around and make hourly checks and just keep everybody straight. And but I was locking down a pod, and everybody locked down, no big deal. And then I looked over, and there was a little Hispanic guy who could barely speak English, and he was not very big. Well, I don't think he was 5 feet tall, and he was standing there and refused to go into his cell. I'm like, "What's going on?" And he pointed in his cell and said, "Celly." So I looked in there, and this guy was on the ground, writhing, and I mean writhing, and talking in this deep guttural voice. I said, "All right, dude, have a seat. I'm calling people in." The guys on the upper tier were leaning over, and I'm like, "Lock it down. I'm calling for help." So I heard all the doors shut. And I called my lieutenant, and I said, "I need a couple guys down here, and we got a situation." So several guys came in, and I said, "Look, we got to be easy with this one. I don't know the deal." So we stepped in there, and he was sitting on a bunk, and I said, "Look," I'd explained it to my lieutenant, and my lieutenant was a great guy, very intelligent. And of course he went, "It's all you." So I said, "We're going to take you somewhere where it's a lot quieter than it is here, but we have to cuff you from the back to walk you up to booking, and that's the rules of the facility." So we cuffed him, and we calmly and without any incident walked him to the other side of the facility, which was booking. Put him in a cell, uncuffed him, shut the door, and when I turned around to talk to the booking sergeant about who was in there, we all, and I'm talking all of us, heard a little girl's voice coming from that cell. Not a man imitating a female's voice, but a child's voice. And the bucking sergeant looked at me and he goes, "What did you give me?" And I said, "Well, he's your problem now. I'll see you later." You know, I looked at my lieutenant and I said, "I'll write a report in the morning." He said, "Fine, just get out of here." But you know, I dealt with men of I had Odinists, guys who still worship the Norse gods. I had one guy said he was a pagan, and he was just an interesting dude. He went to all the church services. He said, "I really just like to study religion." Um, and had one guy who said he was a witch doctor, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think so." But everybody tended to get along. But yeah, had a I worked with probably one of the naturally strongest men I've ever met in my life. This guy was a door.
I
And
wasn't working.
no, but he looked a lot like you.
Good looking
But
dude then.
yeah. It was snowing, and we had several of our coworkers had trouble getting in, because in Tennessee, if it snows, it's Armageddon. We don't, because it doesn't snow here, and if it does snow, then we get ice, so it's hard to get in. So we had the facility locked down until we had a full crew, and so I was working. I was checking pods, and this dude was working master control, which is you could open any door in the facility. You can watch cameras all over the facility. And he called me in a pod, and I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's going on?" He goes, "I just saw something." I was like, "What?" And in the female pod, which was at the very end of the facility, he watched a light he said was the size of a softball come out of one of the medical cells, go all the way down the top tier to the stairs, go all the way down the stairs, come around, and go out the door. He said, but he never saw it go out into the hallway. He goes, "What do I do?" I said, "Keep your mouth shut." Because we were told at that time that the high sheriff didn't want to hear it. But inmates in what we called a pod, which was when you got in trouble or if you were just a bad boy, that's where you got put. And you only got an hour, according to regulations of the state. We only had to give you an hour outside of your cell a day. So these guys only got an hour out. They were out by themselves. They didn't have any interaction with everybody else. And one guy that he was just some old country boy, and this was just the life he knew. He told me to my face, he said, "Man, officer was doing his checks the other night, and he said he'd walk by, and then somebody else would walk by with him." I'm like, "What, he had a trainee?" He goes, "No. There was a shadow walking behind him," and he said he was about a minute behind him. And so we went back and found the video, and it looked like an animated squiggle. If you just took a pencil and just drew a squiggle on a piece of paper, that's what it looked like. And it was right behind the officer. And it stopped when he stopped. And we were told that didn't happen, that there was a glitch in the camera, and we weren't to talk about it anymore.
So I'm guessing all this footage just gets erased, right?
Yeah, nobody ever, I guarantee nobody's got it anywhere. But
That would be amazing if there was a way to download that somewhere.
I've never seen anything like that. I'm a fan of all this stuff. People have asked me in the past, why do I watch all this stuff? And I'm like, well, it's like if you're a football coach and you watch teams tapes of the other team, you need to know how they're going to play. But I've never seen anything like a squiggle. But one of the other officers nobody that I worked with at that facility works there still. But he took a miniature recorder and put it in one of the cells because the guy next to that cell said somebody starts screaming at about 3 a.m. Well, the cell was empty, so he took a recorder in there and he got recordings of something. Man, we couldn't make out what it was saying, but it was and it was about 3:30 in the morning. But it didn't come across the intercom that is in every cell. We could, from master control, you could punch in and listen to what's going on. If somebody needs help, somebody needs assistance, they can press that button. Never could hear anything, but the recorder picked it up.
That's,
And
that's freaky. I mean,
yeah, man,
so like the guy in the cell next to it could hear it.
could hear it
right?
through the wall. Yeah.
So did anybody like go down to that cell and like?
Yeah, the officer who was in charge of that pod, he went down there and looked, never saw anything, never heard anything, but he picked it up on that recorder he put in there.
Yeah, that was my
And
question. Was it just the recorder? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Again, we were told that from on high, you didn't hear anything, you didn't see anything, and you don't talk about it. So, but that facility holds, any building is always built by the lowest bidder. But I think that building is falling apart, and I don't think it's because of bad construction. I think because of what it holds. I worked a pod one week, and I mean, it felt like that I had worked construction all week. When I got home, I was just dog tired. There were several times I called my wife and said, "Hey, put some clothes on the back porch. I'm not wearing this uniform into the house." I walked in on a Saturday, and it felt different. It felt lighter. And one of the guys who was an Odinist, he came down and he goes, "You feel it, don't you?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, and he told me two inmates who were in that pod went to prison the night before, and the whole place changed. I'm like, "Dude," he goes, "Yeah, I know." He said, "It's weird." But there were fights. I had to deal with fights and stuff all that week. I had to break up all kinds of things. But as soon as those two guys left, everything was cool. So
just bad juju. It was bad juju.
Yes, sir. Exactly. There's still things that I have not told my wife that I dealt with, and I probably won't, because we were trained to do a lot of stuff. We did not carry any weapons. Nobody carried weapons in there. Our biggest weapon was our brain and our mouth. And I found out that, you get a guy talking, you tell him what, he tells you what's wrong, and you always tell the truth. Never lie. Then they're going to be fairly reasonable. But I had one big old boy. I don't know anything about this guy. I didn't know anything about what he was in there for. All I knew that he was a monster, and he was a big dude. And in the cell next to him was a guy who had "Game Over" tattooed on his knuckles. So he was, he wasn't afraid of nobody. We locked down for lunch, and we would eat our lunch, and then we'd switch out and go and do checks until lunchtime was over. So I'm walking through there, and I'm doing my checks, and everybody's cool. And they knocked on the window, and I asked me to open the door. I opened the door, and they said, "Hey, dude, you need to watch this dude next to us in the one-man cell." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "He's watching television." I said, "So?" He goes, "Not the one that's mounted on the wall for everybody to see. He's watching his own TV." Well, there's not one in the cell. So I said, "Okay." And I gently closed the door, and I walked over and I looked in. Dude was sitting on his bunk staring at the wall, and he would reach up like he was changing channels on a remote. All right. So, as luck would have it, I got that pod after lunch. Yay. And I opened them up, and Big Boy came out. And I'm not kidding, man. This guy was like 6'7". And he came straight up to my desk. They had a concrete barrier around it. And he's looming over me. And I'm not little. I'm 325 right now. At my prime, I was 450 pounds, and I'm right at 6 feet. So I was looking for which way am I going to dive when this guy comes over the top of my desk at me. He walks up to me and he goes, "I've got a problem." I was like, "Okay, what can I do for you?" He said, "There's a guy that keeps bothering me. He looks like you, but he's not you because he has stuff crawling all over his face." Okay. And then he says, "There's a little man that comes in my cell and he talks bad about me and I don't like that." And I said, "What do you mean, little man?" He said, "He's about a foot tall." And he said, "He's just bothering me." I said, "Okay, here's what we need to do." I said, "If you step back in your cell, I'm going to lock the door, and then I'm going to call my lieutenant, and we're going to get you moved, okay?" I said, "And that way, that little guy can't hurt you, and we're going to go after that guy that looks like me, and we're going to make sure he doesn't hurt you either." Fine. So and everybody in that pod was watching me. Soon as dude walked back over to his cell, and I heard that door lock, I looked at him. I said, "All right, boys, lock it down. I'm calling." And man, these guys hit their cells like it was nobody. I mean, like the place on fire. And I called my lieutenant. I said, "Look, you need to grab a couple guys." And I said, "Quietly, come down here." And I told him what was going on. He goes, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I think we need to move him, and I think we need to call somebody come get him a mental facility because," I said, "somebody's going to come in here and thinks they're a super cop and tick this dude off, and he's going to snap him like a twig." So we got in there, and again, I said, "All right," and I barely got cuffs on this guy. I mean, he was just that big. I said, "Now we have to do this because it's the rules." I said, "But you're going to walk up to booking at your pace. Nobody's pushing. Everybody's going to be cool." And he was perfectly fine. We got him up to booking. I put him in a cell by himself and got him a blanket, all this stuff. Got the cuffs off. I said, "Now look, the booking sergeant up here," and I introduced him to the booking sergeant, who was one of my training officers. I said, "He's going to take care of you, and we're going to have something. We're going to get somebody to come help you and transport you somewhere where these people can't hurt you." And he was happy as a clam. And dude, that was not. It was only by the grace of God, I think, that because that guy, if he decided that he was going to fight, it would be a bad fight because he was just massive. And but yeah, a mental facility actually came and agreed to come get him because that was one thing they never trained us for. They trained us to deal with how to fight people, how to do this, how to do that, how to talk, how to deal with bloodborne pathogens. I've dealt with every disease that you could think of, but mental illness is was something they never taught us, and we had to learn on the fly. And
So,
that was where
why did this big dude? Did he ever act odd before that day?
I never knew the guy. I came in. We worked like every other weekend. So I had been off that weekend, and when I came in, this was a new person in that pod. I'd never met the guy in my life, and his charges were, to be honest, if I can remember, were really minimal. But of course, they had to check and make sure that there weren't any other agencies that wanted it. So But yeah, I have no idea who this guy was, where he came from, what his deal was. But buddy boy, he was something else. But that was the how my sergeant and my lieutenant dealt with things was all right. It was easier to talk first and then deal with it than go in there and start knocking heads. And
Right.
I personally witnessed my lieutenant quell a almost riot by just walking in and sitting down with the guy who was the leader and just talking it out and being reasonable. But yeah, that was almost out of a heart attack in that place. Almost lost a leg because of that place. So yeah, when it's time to go, I was more than happy to go.
Yeah, that shift that you were on, man, that's a rough shift. I mean, you basically don't have a life.
Nope. And there was one more shift that they did when they first opened, and it was a 16-hour shift, and you worked an entire weekend. It was 2 16-hour days, and you got paid for 40 hours. And they did away with that because 16 hours is without any rest. That's crazy. 12 hours we worked 12-hour shifts, and that was bad. But yeah.
Well, you can't be at your best when you've worked 15 hours, and something happens.
Exactly.
One, you're just ready to leave anyway. So yep. I mean, yeah. Daggone, Chris. I like those stories. I did. And
yeah, it's that was a different place. But and I had we had a really good crew, and that was one thing that helped out. We had officers who I still see people all the time that I worked with, and also inmates. One of the guys actually did repair work on my house and did a great job because he got his life right and is running a construction company and doing gangbusters because he's good at it. But we just had a good crew that knew how to handle people. And then when push come to shove, we also had guys who, like I said, one of these guys was probably the strongest, physically strongest man I've ever met in my life. And then we also had a guy who was a world champion Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, and former Marine, and he was awesome. Always in a great mood.
Well, Chris, you want to plug your because I don't know how the audio was when you were trying to do that earlier. Yeah. You want to go ahead and tell everybody about your site?
Well, my biggest thing is Nevermore Hollows. If you guys want to go and listen to Nevermore Hollows, that is I am thrilled to be partnered up with Alan Wattenbacher on that. And Alan is a amazing writer and a great guy, and comes up with some great stuff. And I get interesting texts all day long of, hey, what do you think about this character? Hey, and I'm actually doing character sketches of one right now. But you can find me at Black Sheep Studios TN on Instagram. And it's Black Sheep Studios on Facebook, and then Chris Goins on Facebook, and but basically take a listen to Nevermore, because that's my pride and joy right now.
If anybody's watched my lives or seen the videos over the last month,
dude, I am so you are the coolest. I mean, and how you plug our stuff is just genius. You had me crying. I was in Atlanta all week last week working, and when you sent me that video, man, I was physically crying. I was laughing so hard. It was awesome.
So people who don't know, this is the Chris that I roasted in that video beginning of the week. He was kind enough to allow me to do that. So
Nobody else in the house where we were staying was up, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table sketching, and man, I'm stifling laughs. It was great. And man, how wonderful it is that you're plugging us, because you don't have to. And that's cool. But your humor is so dry and so good that how you keep a straight face, I don't know. But man, you are the best.
It's hard, dude, because I'll do like 30 takes of a video because I'll start laughing. But if you watch any of my videos, I don't like cuts. So I have to do videos from beginning to end, no cuts.
Well, the folks I work with, I'm like, you got to listen to this dude. He is hilarious. And that's what I love. Oh no, but you are hilarious. And Alan and I have talked about how odd it was that we just met you in Ohio, and how cool everything's going. And I can't wait until next year in Ohio. It was one of the best conventions.
Drink a few and
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then my wife and I think we're planning a trip to Blue Ridge in September.
Yeah.
So
cool.
We're all going to get together and have dinner or something.
Yeah, man. That sounds like a plan. That's awesome.
It's about an hour away from you guys, so.
Yeah, we've. I went to the I can't talk. Bigfoot Museum in Blue Ridge. It's awesome. Yeah. It really is.
We went there 2 years ago, right? Yeah, 2 years ago we went there, and as soon as we decided where we were going, first thing I did was type in Bigfoot to see what was in the area, and that came up. I'm like, yep, this is where we're going.
It was way better than what I expected.
Yeah,
and I was pleasantly surprised at how good that museum is. I'm all about the Falk Monster, and I love that they have a section. That's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah,
and it scared me when I was a child. And being the responsible father that I am, I showed it to my children, scared them.
I talk to Alan all the time, and I'm like, we are all so like similar. Like, our upbringings and just everything that we do is just pretty similar. And like you said, it was just a chance meeting in Ada, Ohio, and I love the conversations that we have, and I can't wait till we do some stuff together.
Oh, I can't wait, man. And our buddy Matthew Orton, who does Drunken Cryptids, is going to be in Ohio as well, and which is just going to be awesome because he's another great guy. And that
actually, I'm doing an interview with him on Tuesday. So,
oh, dude, I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hear it because he's one of the best people I've met in a long, long time, just like you. And but I mean, it's just amazing. I am so thrilled to start to have this circle that Alan and I talk about this all the time. It's amazing how all this is coming about, and the opportunities that we're getting, and and like I told Alan, I said, well, we'll invite them all to the opening of the Nevermore Hollows animated movie, because it's going to be something. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. I'm if you're gonna wish big. And I told him, I said, I can't wait to call Mark Hamill and say, hey, look, can you do the voice of a demon possessed capuchin monkey? Because that's what I want to hear.
Yeah. All right, man. I loved having you on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Go ahead and click on Chris right now. Follow him. If you have any questions about, where to follow him on other other outlets. I'm sure he'll be glad to point you in the right direction. Make sure you're following Nevermore Hollows. Yeah, it's the most unique. It's that's all I listen to right now, and I'm sad because I'm almost caught up. Wait for episode.
We've got some cool stuff coming up, and the thing that I'm working on right now is probably the villain is right up there with Psycho Juju. He is different, and I love it. So yeah, just you wait, man. Just you wait, and just everybody else, keep listening, and we appreciate it, and keep listening to the Cougar Hunter, man, because he is the man. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right, my friend.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
You got it.
Yeah, that was Chris. Yeah, I went to a Bigfoot conference up here in Ada, Ohio, and never heard of Nevermore Hollows. And I'm going to admit it publicly. Whenever I came to their booth, Alan came up to me and I asked a question about, there was a picture of Psycho Juju there. And I misunderstood Alan. I didn't realize Alan was the creator. I think he was saying that Chris was the artist. So I went over and started talking to Chris, not realizing that Alan was over there like, hey, I must be chopped liver. But Chris put me in the right direction to get in touch with Alan, and it's been a pretty neat about 45 days right now. So I have Copenhagen in here. Copenhagen has some stories. I saw somebody comment a minute ago. I think they were trying to comment their story. I'll have my mods. My mods are looking into that. Athen Arts with a Z. Let's see. Athen Arts, would you like to come in and tell your story? I'm going to go ahead and send you a. I'm not ignoring Copenhagen. I know you'll stick around and watch anyway. Let's see. Athen Arts, there we are. Let's send out an invite right now. Let's see if Athen Arts wants to come in and tell their story. And I've also got Alan sitting around watching too. Let him come in. I know he's got more paranormal stories than what he told, because I've listened to Nevermore Hollows. And okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to message you after the live, Athen Arts, and maybe we can set up time for you to come in and tell your story, if that's all right. But I follow anybody that comments, as long as they're positive comments and they're not in here making fun of people, because that will get you blocked. Oh, you're in the UK. I haven't had anybody from the UK. I had somebody from the Philippines. I will contact you. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out, even if we have to record it and I just play it in here. Alan, how long are you going to be in here? I want to make sure. If you're, I know you got early because you're fragile like that. All right, let's get Alan real quick before he has to go to bed. Alan's normally at a basketball game or getting ready for bed at this time. So.
Yeah, I'm old. So, how you doing, Brother Cougar?
All right. Are you in your pajamas yet?
I am sitting literally, okay, I'm sitting in the bed, I'm covered up, and
I
I'm
knew it.
watching the best live stream in the internet at the moment.
I knew it. Because it seems like every time I text you after about 7 o'clock, it's like, well, I'm either at a basketball game or you're in bed. So,
So yeah, I sound like I'm 100 years old. I know, but man, I'm an early riser, and I'm a very We're all busy, right? We're all doing stuff, right? So my wife, she makes fun of me, calling me an old man all the time.
so Alan, I heard, because I'm almost caught up now.
Yeah,
I heard about this orb story.
yeah. Yeah. So first, I'll tell that. But first, I want to say a couple of things. One, Chris is very kind. He's my brother. I've known him for 30 years, and God put us together here, a couple of years ago after life gets in the way, and you just kind of drift apart. But he sells himself short. He likes to push Nevermore more than he pushes himself, and he is my partner in crime in this, and I appreciate that he's doing that. But he is an amazing artist, and that's how I say it is. I literally, for that week, there was a week. My son's an artist, and I'd asked him to be my art director, and he was like, "Man, I want to do my own thing." I'm like, "I got you, son. That's cool. I'm digging it." And I was like, Lord, I need an art director. And Chris calls me out of the blue and says, "Hey man, let's go have some tacos." And we sit down, and he's got all these character sketches, and I'm like, "Well, how much do I owe you?" He goes, "Man, I just want to be part of what you're doing." And I went, "Well, you know what? This is a God thing, so you're part of it now." So anyway, so check out Chris's art. But the second thing I want to say before I get into this story is, as I told you, I don't know if I said it on the last live stream I was on, but I spent the '90s as a stand up comedian traveling the country. Okay, so I've written my share of comedy, and I have bombed many times on stage. As you're working through characters and stuff like that, dude, your character rocks, and the way you present him, like what Chris was saying, that dry just delivery, you're totally in a character. It's like you're in on it, and everybody else has to be in on it too. It's brilliant. Some of your lines are just I sometimes I get so tickled. I am rolling, and I'm showing it to my wife, and I'm showing it to my son. I'm like, listen to what he just said. So well done, brother. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, what I did tonight, this live is not about paranormal. It's all about people coming in and talking about how great I am.
Right?
No, I do appreciate it.
So good. Yeah, good. Well, you deserve it. I mean, because you see a lot of folks on the internet. I think I'm having some technical difficulties. Hang on a second.
All right.
But you hear a lot of times on TikTok and whatnot. You see these guys and girls trying to create characters, and they don't quite pull it off, or I don't know. There's just something missing. You've got it, but that's fun. So all right. So this orb story. All right. So there's actually two that I've told before. Which one are you talking about?
With the car and the curve.
Okay, excellent. All right, that's a good one. All right, so I was a young man, and I was probably 18, 19, something like that. I was young, and I worked in a city that was about 30 minutes away from the city I lived in, and you know, this is 30 years ago, so it's very rural. Still, I mean, it's still fairly rural around here, but not as much as it was. And so I had a little yellow 1970 Volkswagen Beetle that I would drive back and forth. And I tricked up this Volkswagen Beetle to where, I mean, still it's a Beetle. You can trick it out all you can, and you get what? You get from 60 to maybe 65 miles an hour at its top speed. But anyway, I had it tricked out, right? And I would drive this thing like I was in a race all the time. So there was this back road that, and Chris knows this back road well. When we filmed the episode for Nevermore Hollows, we actually drove on that road when I told the story at night. It was really cool. So we would drive on this road, and it was a very curvy road out in the middle of nowhere. And about halfway down this road, or maybe 10 miles of road, about halfway down was this very sharp curve. And so the story was, there's always a story of 20 years ago, right? Especially when you're in a small town. When I was young, the story was 20 years ago there was this guy that was he had a wreck, and that or as he was coming around the curve, there was a wreck there, and they had were pulling the car out of the ditch, and he had a wreck, and as they were pulling the car out of the ditch, he loses his head, kind of thing, right? So none of us ever, it's just a story we used to tell. And so one night, it's late. I'm coming home from work, and I'm hammered down in this Volkswagen, and there's no light. We're out in the middle of nowhere. It's farmland, and I catch this gleam out of the corner of my eye, on my left eye, and I'm like, what is that? And I kind of look out, and as I'm doing this, I'm slowing down, and I'm like, there's a light, and it's kind of like what like today, almost like a light was on under my car. So I slowed. By this time, I've slowed down quite drastically, and I roll down the window, and I look out, and about 6 or 8 inches from the rear wheel is this small glowing orb about the size of maybe a golf ball. It was kind of hard to tell, and it was kind of pulsating a little bit. So at times it looked about the size of a softball, and it's just keeping perfect speed with me. So I slow way down. I'm trying to figure out, what is this thing, right? And we get close to the curb, and it just shoots away. And I'm like, holy moly, right? I'm like, that nobody's ever going to believe this story. So I come around the curve, and there's been a wreck, and they are trying to pull this guy out of the ditch, and they've got a chain across the road as they're trying to pull him out. Had I not slowed down, I would have hit that wreck. I would have T-boned this guy when I came around, because he was just there in the middle of the road as they were pulling him out, and I could have died. So upon reflection of that, you think something was slowing me down so that when I came around that curve, I was at a controllable speed.
Right. So this orb, though, was it like, did it have a form, or was it just a light?
No, it was spherical, perfectly spherical.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that might have been, an angelic spirit or something,
Mm-hmm. And Chris and I have talked about it before. I've talked about it with my son, and we all are open to the idea of the paranormal, right? That's why we're having these conversations. But we also try to approach it with skepticism. Okay, can it be explained? Or there's no way that this can be explained. So
Right.
could it be? Could it have been some sort of angelic spirit that was trying to slow me down, so that maybe someday I could meet the cougar hunter?
It was fake, man. That was the spirit of cicada meth in camp, my dad.
That's right.
He only shows up every 17 years and makes a lot of noise, and then disappears again.
That's hysterical. That is hysterical.
I didn't go through the whole thing because I don't want my live to get shut down. So I'm like you, though, because, and I haven't told you my paranormal story. We're going to talk about that soon. When we went on this ghost hunt, I went in as a skeptic. I was there to debunk everything that everybody saw. And, there were a lot of things that people saw, and I was like, no, that fan up there making that noise, or
Right.
you know, that's somebody walking around upstairs. We know there's people up there. So yeah, you have to be skeptical. You can't just go in and say everything I see is paranormal, everything I hear is Bigfoot. You know, you've got to be skeptical, or you're not being honest about this. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Because that way you're being disingenuous, and you want to be the type of person to where, you're open to the idea of it, but you're skeptical enough that when you do have these conversations, you're believable.
Right. Right. Yeah, because you listen to some of these guys, and you know they get into a certain train of thought, and everywhere they look it's Bigfoot, or
Yeah.
it's orbs, or it's whatever, but that's what they're looking for, so that's what they see.
Right.
If you're that's why I don't like some of these Bigfoot shows.
Mm-hmm.
I did like what was the like the original one, Finding Bigfoot. I
Right.
did that show up until a certain point, because I honestly think that maybe they found something, and the creators or the producers were like, we can't show that, because if we show that, we don't have a show anymore.
Right.
So I think at a certain point, some of these shows, they run out of steam, not because there's nothing to show. It's if they do show what they have, don't have a show.
Right.
Does that make sense? Or
Oh,
am I
yeah.
just talking?
No.
Is that
No,
mouth diarrhea? I get that sometimes.
Well, look, you and my wife. My wife says I have that all the time.
I won't tell you what my wife says about me.
So
It's not.
that's why. Right. I think that's why we're long lost brothers, man. I'm telling you. But yeah,
Well,
but in that situation where I came around the curve and that car was, I later found out that he had wrecked. But when I first rounded that curve, it looked like it was just broken down and people were trying to help him. But either way, when I look back on those moments and I go, I'm glad whatever it was, I'm glad it was there. I'm glad I had that experience, so it helped open my eyes to the supernatural, which I'd already had some experiences anyway. But that was a very personal, just me and that thing happening. But then it leads us to where we can be in a situation like this, having a conversation about it, trying to open people's eyes, or the people who already have their eyes open. We're just, all right, well, what was it? Just having a great conversation about it.
right.
So good. Now,
So
go ahead.
I'm not normally big on orbs, because a lot of times when you see all these videos and stuff, it's freaking dust.
Right.
You can tell it's dust, or it's a bug.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see an actual light, that's a totally different ballgame. That's more than just a bug flying. It's more than just a reflection. Mm-hmm. This thing's following your car, mm-hmm. keeping pace with you, mm-hmm. and it's a physical light. That's mm-hmm. what I consider an orb. Not a lot of these things that you see on ghost hunting shows. And I might get some hate for that, but I don't care.
Right. Well, what that's going to do is it's going to you're challenging people right now to be open, but also be skeptical to those moments, so that you are more believable. If you're one of those guys that just believed everything that came at you, like you said, it takes away from your credibility. And Chris talks a lot about those guys on I forget which one it is, but he's like, they'll trip over a chair and go, a ghost, that was a ghost that pushed me over. Right. At one point it becomes a cartoon, and it's not anything believable.
Yeah, I'll flat out say, Ghost Adventures, you cannot get possessed on every freaking episode.
Right.
You wouldn't be alive. I'm sorry, you'd be in a mental hospital or something.
Right.
they lost a lot of credibility when they go to that point where it's, possession every freaking episode. If it happens once, okay, I can see that, but not every time you walk in a freaking building.
Right.
It lost me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, when you see these people who proclaim to be one thing and they act like another, you lose their credibility. So therefore, you're closed off to anything. So when I'm having conversations with skeptics, and I'm surrounded by a lot of skeptics, I have been called by close friends, "You're a whack job. You're an absolute whack job." But I'll tell you what, when something really crazy happens, or they release something in the news about UFOs or something, they call the whack job going, "What are your thoughts on this?" I'm like, "Hang on a second. Just 6 months ago, you said I was a whack job."
Yep.
Right? But
Yep.
I always try to present myself, even with these skeptics around me. I'm the one that will explain. I try to, when I do it this way. Sherlock Holmes said that when you remove all the impossible, whatever's left, no matter how improbable, is the truth, right? Well, that's the way I approach this. If I cannot explain it away, then there's got to be there might be a truth of nugget, or a nugget of truth there. So I always try to approach these things as, let me try to explain it away. And if I can't, then we got to go a little bit deeper and maybe open our minds a bit.
Right. Right. Well, Alan, why don't you go ahead and plug your show? Because if you don't, I'm going to. But coming from Lafayette Faust sounds a lot better than John Methenkamp.
Well, look. One, I appreciate your confession earlier, but I absolve you of that sin, because there was no sin there, brother. You didn't know, and look, as you can tell, Chris and I, there's no ego in what we do. We're doing it because we love it. We want to make these connections with people, and so I'll tell you this. Like I said on your last show that I was on, Nevermore Hollows, we want to create spooky stories, horror stories, creepypastas, whatever you want to call them, that are unlike anything you're going to hear anywhere else. If we can't tell a story in a new way, or come up with a new monster, or just be engaging, then we're not going to do it, because time is the most precious thing you've got. And if you're going to spend 30 minutes to an hour listening to one of our shows, we want you to come away with it going, well, whether I liked it or not, it was a unique experience. So check us out, Nevermore Hollows. And I got to say this. Go ahead.
I checked that entire yard and I can't find a single dog turd. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I love it. I appreciate it. I got to tell you this. I'll end on this, okay? As you can tell, so you've been almost through the whole yard, right? Yes. All the characters. Chris and I were trying to figure out, how did we describe what we do? Well, we came up on this the other day. It's Southern redneck gothic horror. so right, it's redneck perfect. Gothic horror.
It's perfect.
Because we're Southern redneck dudes, right? And when I met you up in Ada, Ohio, I was like, I don't know who that freaking guy is, but he is a Nevermore Hollows character if I've ever met one. So one of the ways that I'm trying to say thank you for what you're doing for us. I'm trying to share your stuff with people that I know and care about, and who I think would like your humor. But, and I don't do this for everybody. I've done it for 2 other folks, but I'm doing it for you. There is going to be a story where John Cougar Hunter Methenkamp comes to Nevermore Hollows and has a crazy adventure.
I can't wait. I can't wait. You don't know how much, when you told me that, like, that was my day. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
Good. Well, it'll be after the first of the year, but I've got one now with the Drunken Cryptids guy, Matthew Orton. He has become a brother to me and Chris. I mean, he has, just like you. I don't feel like you're just some dude I'm talking to. I literally feel like I'm talking to a close friend, a brother, and that's how Matthew is. Matthew's that kind of guy. So, he just became, within 3 months, the 3 of us, me and Chris and Matthew, have become so close, and I just wanted to honor him and what he's done for my show as well by writing a story about him. So probably the next story that drops is going to be set in his tavern that opens up on Main Street in Nevermore Hollows, and I'm hoping that he enjoys it. But I've got a special story in mind for you too, because you're the perfect character to have in this universe, and I can't wait to get it written and recorded. And Chris is probably going to do your voice. I'm going to let Chris do your voice.
That's perfect. Just don't put me in trailer 66, please.
No, that's a bad trailer. Nobody wants to be in trailer 66, brother. Well, look, I appreciate you, brother. I do.
I appreciate everything. I appreciate our conversations. Literally, I think my wife thinks we're having an affair because I text you more than I text her. But
yeah, same here. My wife is like, "Who you texting?" I'm like, she knows now it's either you, Chris, or Matthew. Those are the three people I'm saying.
All right, buddy. I know it's past your bedtime.
Yeah, my Geritol is kicked in. I got to get some naps in.
Right.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you.
I will talk to you later, and everybody check out Nevermore Hollows. I cannot praise that show enough. It is fresh. It's different. It's not your normal podcast, like even what I'm doing here. You know, there is a little bit. There's a couple episodes that are kind of like that, but it's like listening to an audiobook, but it's better. It's better because it's little bite-sized stories that all fit together, and you don't even have to listen to them in order. That's what I really like about it. Oh, Alan left. Geritol kicked in. But that was Alan, Nevermore Hollows. Check them out. Check out Madman. I'm glad they had some paranormal stories to tell because that's what this show is really supposed to be about. Now we got Copenhagen. Copenhagen, you still here? Oh yeah, he's here. Copenhagen came in my live last weekend. I thought he was a stalker, but turns out he wasn't. Actually, we actually grew up together. So he is back today to tell some more paranormal stories that he's done. How you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Apparently, I'm like, one of the most famous people on TikTok right now.
Oh, I see that. I see. I'm trying to get my camera to flip around again.
Do you want to go full screen here, or do you just want to tell your story?
Oh, well, that's up to you. It really doesn't matter to me. There we go.
There we go.
I'm in there.
I was talking about you yesterday, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was overseeing Granny.
Oh man, like I said, it's been 30 years. It's been so long.
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to her and Sharon about you. So
that's so cool, man.
So
that is awesome.
All right, man. What do you got for us tonight?
Well, after the last live, see, I've never told my stories to anybody but like my wife and maybe a friend or two, So I don't really know how to go about because more and more just came on me as I got off the phone. Been a week between and all this good stuff, So I wrote a couple down. I told you I can tell you about Gettysburg, the Cashtown Inn. I had a lady curse me once, and I think she really did curse me. Let's see what else I got written down here. The high wall. I don't know if you remember the high wall.
Yes.
Oh, dude. And also, I from the last story I told you about when I was held down on that futon where my stepmom had died on it.
Yeah.
I have another story about that. I forgot to tell you. I can start off there if you want me to.
Yeah, the floor is yours, brother.
Okay, man. Well, I got held down, had to run out of that place, the other stuff with the socks, all the good stuff, right? Well, after all this had happened, I was sleeping, okay? And I was in a deep sleep. It was a beautiful sleep, which you don't get many good, deep, good sleeps, And I went into this dream. And when I went into this dream, I'm in the background of my dream. Everything is black around the outer portion, and there's this great big center light shining down in the middle of this room. And in the middle of this room is some chairs, and they're filled up. And they're filled up with my dead family members that had passed within just recent years, not long, right? There's one empty chair. I can't get any closer to them than where I'm at. I can hear them talking, but I can't make out everything that they're saying. I can catch bits and pieces, like we'll see her soon. Just little things, right? Well, I didn't put much stock. At the time I'm just like, oh, it's a dream. I wake up, rub my eyes, whatever, and then it hits me, man. I need to tell my dad. Like that was some crazy stuff. I get downstairs, I round the corner. My dad is meeting me around the corner, and he looks dead into my face, and he goes, "Your granny died last night." And I said, "What?" Uh, And that was my stepmom's grandmother, the one that had passed in that house. And I
Wow.
had that dream in that house, and she died, literally died. My dad had just got the phone call. I had made it down the steps in order for him to turn around, look me right in the face, and tell me that.
That
It was
is
wild, dude.
holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of belief that there's more to dreams than just dreams.
I believe that.
There's this belief that it's a thinning of the veil where you can actually cross over, especially when this is happening 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
in the wee hours, that the veil's already thin. You're in this dream state, and I'm not sure. I'm no expert, but it kind of makes sense that you could cross over or get glimpses of the other side
I
during
don't
this
doubt
time.
that. It was too
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
It was too real because it freaked me out. I don't have too many dreams where I just jump up and want to go tell somebody immediately about it.
Right.
That was one of those dreams.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that ends that side of it. Now I got Gettysburg. I got the Cashtown Inn. I've got that curse the lady put on me.
Let's do Gettysburg. We haven't had any
Okay.
Gettysburg yet.
All right. So I wanted to go out and get into the paranormal, right? So on my way back home for a trip, we were going to go visit family, all the good stuff and everything. And on our way back, we're going to hit Gettysburg for 2 days. So we go back home and we're testing things out, recorders, all the good stuff. I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, I always heard that the graveyard on Lover's Lane was haunted. The Amish graveyard up by the steel bridge." She's like, "All right, well, let's go out there." So we go out there and I've got our recorders on and everything. I had a brand new car, just bought it, didn't have any miles on it. We get into the cemetery, we get out of it, we shut the car, we shut the car off, everything, we get out, we start walking. But my car lights never shut out. And they never shut out. We're 15, 20 minutes into it. My car lights are still on. My indoor dome light and my lights are still on. It didn't shut off automatically, which I thought was very weird. So it gets around 2:30 or so. We've been asking questions and all stuff, not hearing anything really to scare us while we're outside or anything. And then all of a sudden, man, out of nowhere, these two cats get into it. Wow! They just lock it up, man, and they're tearing each other to pieces like 2:30 in the morning. The girls get scared to death. They run to the car. I'm getting to the car, my own little pace. Get into the car. We're riding down the road, taking it easy through Lover's Lane, and I'm listening to this recorder. And man, I had asked two questions. I said, "Do you know my family up the road Thompson family. Do you know J.A. Thompson? And I got immediate yes. And it wasn't a yes, it was a yes, just
Oh
like
wow.
that. And I was like, what the heck? So, and I caught myself asking it a third time. Hey, do you know my family, the Thompson family up the road? They milk cows and they got a horse farm. Yes, yes, just like that.
Oh wow.
Okay, that was real cool, right? All of a sudden, those cats got into it on the recorder, and as soon as those cats got into it and they stopped, I got leave, just like that. And when it said leave, is when them girls took off running, man. Bam! They didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing, but
Right.
that recorder picked up everything. That was when I was telling you the recorder I can't find. It's got to be in my attic somewhere, dude. But I
Oh,
have it. I will
if you
find it and I
find
will prove it to you.
that, I want to hear that.
I will find it. But yeah, so anyway, we leave there and we head to Gettysburg. We're all excited because I just watched a Ghost Hunters episode with Taps, and they went there and they stayed at the Cashtown Inn, and they end up checking the place out and everything. Got the picture moving, and this is the place where the first shot of Gettysburg started. And this was an inn in the beginning of the movie Gettysburg. It shows this inn and the Confederates coming up the road and everything.
Yep.
And it was the last house north of Richmond that housed all the Southern generals in at one time. Okay, so and I stayed in the AP Hill room. Well, and I'm a big Civil War guy. I've been to all kinds of battlefields all across the place. Manassas, Bull Run. I've been all over the place. Well, um, we get there, okay, and we want to go in, get our keys, check out the place and everything because I'm just hyped up. We get in, the people are real nice, and they hand us our door key. And the first thing she says is, "This is the only key I have to that room. Please don't lose it." Okay, we're like, "Fine, that's cool. We got no problem with that. Don't plan on losing your key." And so we're like, "Okay, let's go on out and grab our stuff. Going up, check the place out." So we grab our stuff, go up, check it out. Really nice. We got the habit of taking our luggage, putting it on the bed, opening it up because my wife might want to take some couple things out, get dressed up before we head into town for a little bit. She does that. We go into town, come back. We wasn't gone long enough just to have a bite to eat and come back. It was late, right? We hadn't got to check out anything. We got there late. We get to our room. We open the door, and the door won't move hardly. So we finally get it pushed open, and my boots had been put up against the door. Our luggage had been zipped back up, picked up, and stuck against the wall as if, you know, get out of here type thing. Pack this up, you know. I looked at my
Wow.
wife. I said, "Are you sure we put the?" She's like, "Honey, I got my brush out. I brushed my teeth. Everything. So we're freaking out a little bit, you know. So we don't have a TV in the room. We didn't want that. And there's ghost books in there, Gettysburg, and different things to read. And people keep journals about their experiences. And so we decided to get the Ghost of Gettysburg book out, and I was going to read it to my wife while we laid in bed. So that's what we did. And we're laying there, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and we hear a creak, like a footstep, come into our room. Just one creak, like one boot come down, right? Made us both stop and look up. And when we looked up, dude, it was like a camera flash happened in front of our face. It emanated out of nowhere. It started as a little pinhole, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, about yay big, blue, and it snapped. Pow! It snapped like it should have made sound, but it didn't. It just blew up and disappeared. My wife and I both saw it, you know. It was wild, man. Never seen nothing like that in my entire life. And I looked at her, I was like, "This is the real deal. This is it. We're actually in a real haunted place.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're reading in this journal because we're like, all right, what happened to other people? So we're reading, they're like, man, put like they like to move your money around. They like to play with modern money and stuff in this place, right? So I'm like, cool, man. So I start putting quarters out and stacking them up and put them in different places, putting my paper money out, you know. And the one lady said to take your money, to put it on a piece of paper and draw a circle around a quarter or whatever you got and see if they'll move it out of the circle. So we did that. We go into town, grab a pizza, come back, and in that time, all that money had moved out of the circles, right? Not completely, but they had moved about a quarter of an inch out of the circles. Now, mind you, I've got the only key to this place, the only one, man, to the front door, to my door, everything. And my wife had taken a pillow off the. Oh yeah, and all my money had been put together and like fanned and put down. Like they had put it together, fanned it, and stuck it back down. It was nuts, nuts. My wife had taken this pillow off a chair. Lady had said she had done this and it come back and it was upside down sitting in the chair. I'll be damn if that pillow wasn't sitting in that chair upside down, just like the lady had described it in the book that she wrote her occurrence down. I swear on everything that makes me breathe, man. All that. No batteries would work. None of my batteries would work. I couldn't take a picture. I couldn't take a video in this place. There's a river that runs completely underneath this house, all the way through underneath the home. You can go in the basement and see the water. It's wild, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you continued to stay in this house or in this
Say that
building?
again.
You stayed in that building that night?
Yeah. I've been there twice. That impacted me so much. I went back. You know, it really got me because that wasn't the first. That was only the first night, dude. We had just got there. Second night, we go out all day long. We're running around. We go to Devil's Den. We go to the lights are kicking out. We go to the museum, all the good stuff. Then we get to Little Round Top, right? And I'm sitting there, and this is where the Northern Virginia had made it to this point, okay? And we had just come from Virginia, so I was joking around sitting on a rock, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a Virginia boy here from Virginia," like that, right? Man, I've never been touched by anything before, but I got touched. Just like a father to a son, something came up behind me, man, and put their hand around the back of my neck, like you would your nephew or your son or something like that, like coming up behind him, like, hey, just not say anything, just looking out, like just put your arm on somebody like that. Man, I jumped, and it was real because when it happened, I felt the grip. There was a grip to it, man. Grip.
What?
Yeah. Yep.
That would freak me
Right.
out.
It freaked me out. I
I've
turned
never
pale.
physical happened to me before.
Yeah, that was the first time and only time I'd ever been touched by anything, but it grabbed me right by my neck, right in the back of my head.
Wow.
Every hair on my body standing up except for my beard right now.
That'd be a hell of a trick if your beard stood up.
Yeah, that'd be real scary, wouldn't it? We left there, okay, and just couldn't get over what was going on. Devil's Den was wild. You could almost audibly hear things, but it's your mind, because you're in such a majestic, wild thing. I've been to a lot of battlefields, but there's nowhere like Gettysburg. Not a place. Nowhere. We get to the peach orchard, okay, and there's a huge battle with the peach orchard. Nothing, it's beautiful. Got some pictures and whatnot. And as we're walking back to the car, faintly, faintly in the distance, you could hear drums. You could hear the snap of a snare drum, dude. You couldn't hear a horn or you couldn't hear a bugle, but you could hear the snap of a snare drum so far distant. It was like a football game. If you're all the way across town and you're hearing halftime show, you know what I mean? You're just catching a couple beats, Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard on other shows people report hearing drums at Gettysburg.
Yeah, man. I heard them. I didn't have my recorder. We weren't even thinking about it at the time. We were just checking the scene and didn't think we'd see anything anyway or nothing.
Right.
So that's second day. Now we're headed back to the hotel. We get back to the Cash Town Inn. It's dark. We got a couple other families there now. One family from Ohio, and they're staying directly across the hall from us, which is about 2 steps out my door to their door. Couple old ladies staying upstairs in the Robert E. Lee suite. There's 3 sisters upstairs in the Robert E. Lee suite, which is real haunted. It's awesome. It's always booked a year in advance, or I would have had it. So, wife and I again get settled in. We get into bed. Did no sooner get into bed and shut the lights off, my door handle turns. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. My wife's like, "This is crazy, dude. Like, no way this is happening right now." Get up, open the door. There's nothing there. Nothing. Say, "Dan, get up. Look, there's nothing here. I swear to God, there's nothing. Look." Get back into bed. We're freaked out. We're freaking out. Eyes are wide open. Then, man, we hear the door open downstairs, front door. Boom, big old wooden door. Boot steps. Boom, clackety, clack, clack, clack. And you know just as well as I do what cowboy boots sound like on hardwood floor. Clack, 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 clack. All the way up the stairs, and it stops right in front of my room and my neighbor's room. And as soon as it stops, dude, me and my wife jerked that door open, and no sooner did they did across the hall. And they looked at me, and his words directly out of that man's mouth was, "Did you just hear what I heard?" I said, "Did you hear boot steps?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Ain't it crazy how we're sitting on carpet?" He's like, "Yeah." All carpeted, man. And it was hardwood steps, man, all the way up to our door. Yep.
That was amazing.
Amazing. Yes, I love that place. If I'm going to go back for a third time, and I absolutely will stay there again. It's an amazing place.
I don't know.
It's beautiful, dude. You love it.
My wife doesn't seem too willing to stay at that place.
Well, I will tell you one thing. I felt like, your brother or sister come by and flip you on the ear or flip you on the foot or something like that with their face, just flip you. I did feel like my big toe got flipped. Bam. Like somebody walked by me and flipped me right on my big toe. Weirdest thing, right? But that's what it felt like, man. I had my toe sticking out of the blanket. Pow! Flipped me right on the end of my toe. I made my wife sit there while I took a shower. I was like, "Shit, man, something's gonna get me in the shower, bro." But no, man. I even went back a second time, and we ended up staying in an addition on the back. Nothing happened at all. We didn't have not one bit of activity because it was an add-on, I guess. I don't really know, or they just weren't active. But the night I got there, and the second night, I couldn't believe what was happening to us because I was a pure skeptic. I did not think nothing was going to happen. Dude, I grew up in a house that was built in 1818. Like, come on. Wow. This was blowing my mind completely off my head. My head was like coming off my shoulders about it, dude. It was amazing.
Does Dee Dee want to come in and verify any of this?
Yeah, she's here. Truth. LOL.
Yeah. I didn't know
That's
she
her.
was.
You want to come in, babe?
I think I can get both on this one. Let me see.
She's shy. I don't know if she will or not. No, I'm good. I'm sorry. I'll try to get her in on one next time.
It's all, if we can get 2 people that have seen the same thing, I mean, that's I
can get her to verify it next time. I mean, I'm not here to blow smoke up nobody's behind, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. She verified it in the comments, but for people that are just scrolling through, if you got 2 people, that's amazing, dude. That is amazing.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I couldn't ask for a better experience than what I got there for what I wanted. I got what I wanted. you know,
Right.
and verification that it's absolutely 100% real, 100% real, you know. And I didn't think that stuff was real, man.
I might have to make a trip to Gettysburg.
Yeah, it's only 4 hours from me. And I think it was like 6.5, 7 hours from where we from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I appreciate you
yeah,
not saying where we're from.
I'm not gonna. The last one taught me a lesson. I just got so excited. I didn't know,
that was on me. That was on me because I really thought you were screwing with me, dude.
I thought you were screwing with me. I'm like, dude, this guy joking around or what? Because I know your videos. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
thought you were totally screwing with me, dude. I'm like, no, I'm actually, And you're
Yeah.
like, no, bro. And then the thing of it is, I used to live in your old house.
Right.
You know who bought it and turned it into what it is. Yeah, I lived in it for a while.
Yeah.
I got more stories about up and down. Everybody says, "Hey, where'd you go to college?" I said, "Bloomberg Tech, baby." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my Gettysburg stuff, man. That's my Gettysburg stuff. I do have some other things. I can definitely save it for another time because it's stuff to do with where we come from and stuff. And
Well, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. We can just leave the name of the town out.
well, I'll tell you this one then. It's about a Ouija board. We used to get out of school every now and then, and we'd go to this girl's house and we'd mess around with Ouija board. Okay, never worked. Never. Like we never talked to anything on this thing. At least I thought I never saw it move, right? Can't even tell you how many times we messed with it. Well, I'm walking up the street one day and I'm headed to a couple people's house that well, they're your age. Buffalo Bills fans. Anyway, I get there and the mom of the person that we played this at is right there too, and she's crying and she's like, "Were you just at my house with this board?" And I was like, "Yes, it's yours. It's not mine. It's Annie's board. It's not mine." And she's like, "Well, I need you to take it out of my house. I don't want it in my house anymore. Whatever this that." And she never said why. So I took it, take it home, and I put it on my bed because a friend of mine was going to pick me up later. We were going out to do things. He pulls up to pick me up. I'm fast forwarding quick. Picks me up. The only thing on at my place was the porch light. My family was watching the Bombers play that night. They were gone. So it was just me. I come out and I jump in the truck, and dude goes, "Are you going to shut your lights off?" I was like, I look back at my house, and every single light in my house was on. Every one of them. The garage light, and my back bedroom light where my stepdad is, right? He locks it. So you can't get in there because guns and things like that and little sisters and stuff. I can't get in there to shut no lights off or nothing. And his lights were on. Every light in the house was on. I go in, man, and that board was out from under my bed, sitting on the floor. And it wasn't opened or nothing. It was just slid back out from underneath my bed. Dude, I grabbed that thing and I threw it in the back of his truck and we drove to uh, paint place there in town and I threw it in their dumpster. And that was the end of it, man. That was the end of it. I will not mess with those boards no more. No, I won't do that.
Yeah.
Not after that, anyway. Because that's where I
wild.
told you I was afraid I'd bring something home with me. That's what I was talking about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You said you had a story about the high wall?
Yeah. Well, it's not with me per se, but it's a story about two people that I know, and one's not with us anymore. He went up there and was living in his ceiling for 6 days. Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear this story. We might have to
Well,
talk about this one off the lot.
Well, I was afraid because you don't have a restricted 18 thing on here, and I don't want to go into it too far because it's not the prettiest of stories. But
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that off the live. You got my number. We can text that.
Yeah. Yeah, that there's a couple of them like that. But yeah. Other than that, man, that was my Gettysburg story, and that I want to go back because I never stopped thinking about that place. I feel like I belong there. It's so weird.
Did you hear that when they tore down those buildings there at the high wall, in the basement they found shackles on the walls?
Don't tell me that, man. I believe that. No, I never heard that.
I can't verify that. That is what I
I
heard,
believe
though.
that though, man. I heard some about some that was a place that you didn't want to go into around the railroad days because that was like mafia type stuff would happen in there, man.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Yeah.
For real. And I've heard that long ago. Like my Uncle Larry talked about that, Grandpa. Back,
Yep.
Before the Y yard burnt down,
Yeah. That's
Crazy,
what I heard
dude.
too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We all heard the same stories, Crybaby Bridge stuff, all that been there. I didn't have nothing happen there,
Yeah, I think about every town has a crybaby bridge.
I think so too. I think Ohio's got 25 of them.
Just in Dark County.
Yeah, just in Dark County alone. What a good live tonight though, man. That was fun.
Yeah, this was a good one, man. I've had some good ones the last couple of weeks. It's been fun.
Yep. No, I think
fun.
what you got going on is a very good thing. It's a lot of fun. I tried it a long time ago, just didn't stick with it. I wish I would have,
Yeah. Well, dude, if you have any more stories,
I do. I just don't want to take up all that kind of time. Plus, I need to make sure that it's going to be suitable for everybody.
Right, and we can talk about that, and I can put a restriction, make it 18 plus.
Do you remember? Do you remember back in? I guess it would be 92 or 3. There's teens at prom coming out of our rival town that night. And they got messed up, and they all end up getting killed in that car accident. Apparently, some
Yes.
stuff goes on at that intersection. Apparently,
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text you.
Yeah, I can't remember the people who were in it. It's been so long ago, but there were also a set of twins from that town too that I knew quite well that passed away in very mysterious situations, and there's some stuff behind that too.
Yeah.
And I've heard that one of them has been seen. So, weird apparition type.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Michael Bolton's in here. He's from our hometown.
Yes, he is.
He said that his aunt and uncle owned a building on the high banks, so he might be able to verify. So
yeah, we
can find this stuff out, and we can bring this up in the next live.
That's interesting stuff. I'd love to know more about that. Mike, if you know more about it, let us know, man.
Yeah.
Please let us know. I mean, the lady that lived there that I knew the first time when I was a kid, she lived up there, and her son was a friend of mine. I just happened to go up the day after school, and she was talking about how things would happen in there. And she said, but when things would get taken, like her car keys was a major thing, and her keys would get taken, and there would be a coin put in its spot, and not just a coin, but old coin, like silver dollar or just old coin, old money. And it would happen every time her keys or something would come up missing that she needed it now, and it would be gone. But she talked about her keys a lot. Would be just come up gone and end up somewhere else.
Well, I'm going to text you after this live.
Okay.
And I got some more questions.
Okay.
And next couple of weeks is going to be super busy, but I might dig into this a little bit and see what we can find out about the high bank a little more.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be cool.
It was always kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was very creepy.
So
very creepy place. I mean, it just
Find
the
out about
stairs
that.
going upstairs and all that was all just creepy, dude. It really was. That place
Yeah,
needed to go a long time ago, you know.
yeah, absolutely.
But thanks
All
for
right,
bringing
man.
me in
Howie,
again, dude.
you still there? Okay.
Yeah,
I,
thanks for bringing me in again. I really appreciate it.
yeah, I'm going to save your other stories. We're going to talk about and see what we can do if we need to make this 18 plus before we
Yeah.
do your
Okay.
other.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, buddy. Bye.
Bye. This, I tell you what, Becca, these last like 4 lives have been absolute heaters.
Yeah.
They have been. We've had some really cool stories. Yeah, and everybody come in, stroke my ego tonight. That was amazing. I'm gonna contact you too, Michael. Maybe on Facebook. Does anybody else have a story before we end tonight? Because I'm not gonna lie, my bladder is not endless, and unfortunately, my co-host isn't ready to take over yet, and my wife, she won't get on camera. I guess we had somebody making some bad comments. And when you make bad comments in my live, you get blocked. Yeah. I'm not even sure what they were. I wasn't paying any attention. But my wife put the hammer down. Just like that. Out of here. All right, Howie. Thanks for coming in tonight. Like I said, I'll give you a text. If it's not tonight, if I don't text you tonight, it'll be tomorrow. She does. And I'm guessing Laura's still in here. I haven't been watching the comments. Laura is my other mod. They keep everything in line down here, and because I try not to read the comments, I'm trying to interact with my guests, so they do a really good job of keeping people informed and getting rid of the riffraff, because we can't have riffraff in here. Does anybody else have another story they'd like to tell before I? Howie, she's my number one fan now. She took over the top spot there, dude. I don't know what to tell you. No, you're not. You're not the riffraff. All right. If nobody has anything else, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this. This has been 97 minutes now, and it's been a good one. It has been a good one. I'm still working on getting these lives uploaded to YouTube. It takes a while, especially when they're an hour and a half long, to download them and then edit, and then I've got to upload them. It takes a while, so be patient. I do have the previous lives downloaded on my phone already. I just need to get them uploaded to YouTube, but I want to go back through and make sure that I'm not giving out personal information, because sometimes my lips move faster than my brain. And so be patient. They'll be on my YouTube sometime soon, hopefully. I do have a 4-day weekend coming up, so I can get caught up on some of this stuff. Abby's in my live. My daughter. My beautiful daughter. I don't know. I never asked her, but I can ask her. I'll be seeing her, if not this weekend, I'll be seeing her on Thanksgiving, but I can ask her about it. I'm sure Brian would say it was just making up stuff, but yeah. All right. Well, I do appreciate everybody coming in tonight, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Hopefully we have another heater, because this was fun. Talk to you later. Gotta go.